My name is Maryam Ashrāfi and I'm a social documentary photographer. I don't see myself in this fast-moving headline of the news and journalism going ahead. And I'm always interested in what's happening to the people in the long term. It came with my background, as well as my interest in sociology. That's what I wanted to study when I was younger. But then I realized, okay, with the sociology, I can follow on a topic, but then I would always have the boundaries of language. And I can reach kind of certain audience with what I say because there is a language gap and all that. But with the images, if I try to capture what I try to say in this kind of sociological issues and problems, then maybe I can have 2 or 3 more audiences. I became a refugee at the age of 17 and we had to leave Iran, my country, because of my dad's situation there. Perhaps the fact that I could feel all the problems that these days we're talking about the refugees and the injustices and the differences that they face. I mean, not all of them could be the harsh problems that we see in society, but something which is not really visible. And as a child, I could see that I was happy because I had the opportunity to live in a new country, and I could see the psychological effect at the same time for me. So I grew up with all these things, and perhaps deep down, that's what drew my attention to some of the topics I'm trying to cover. I think that we are only focusing on some conflicts that is more recent, and we are forgetting the long conflicts that's been happening before and the people who are suffering, for example, in Afghanistan after all these times. And so that's why I said this fast forward media news, that it's just you are bombarded by something new, that even if you want to care and want to kind of understand more, then you have something new coming up and up. So I don't blame anyone for that. Why at the time that I was a refugee, no one said my story, for example. But now I see that with this kind of personal understanding, maybe I can add something else to the idea. Days by days, as we're having more headlines coming up, I feel the life of people, the normal people, is just fading away and they're becoming like numbers. And at the same time, you can see that unless me as a viewer, as an audience, if I don't connect to that place, then I wouldn't care. Care to the extent that try to make some changes in a way. So maybe that's what I would try to do, and I hope I can be doing this, and all the other colleagues that have the chance to stay longer in a place. Live with the people, have their stories, and not only focus on what media wants at the time. What I'm actually doing during the last 3 years, that I'm following Kurdistan and especially Syrian part, the Children of War is a kind of a series that I'm working on. And for me, the children are not only the most innocent one, but the most affected one. So one of the photos is actually the one that I was coming back from Tabqa, which was almost liberated, and I was on my way back to Kobani. And there was this big truck like along us coming up, and that was quite normal. We would see that every day because of the Raqqa operation was happening and many people were leaving Raqqa. So in a way, I was used to seeing like families on the top of all the belongings they have on the trucks. Some smiling, some depressed, some happy, some wants to talk, some they just hate the cameras, which is normal. And at some point, an accident happened, and it was so fast that I don't even know how it happened. But then I just look up to see how the children are doing, if someone had actually fallen down. But all I could see was that kind of, it's like the trauma of the war coming back to them in a second. And they were screaming, they were so scared, as if like a bomb. And to me, that is the trauma, that it comes to them in every daily life that they're facing. And again, the children were the most who were suffering, I would say, because they can't explain the situation. They can't find the reason why we're stuck here, but all they could hear is the scream of the mom who's trying to jump down and help, and then the father who's trying to hold them, and they're all stuck in the situation with the questions. I mean, that was one of the examples that I see in everyday life. The other photo is from Tabqa, an Anisa camp, which is a big refugee camp with all the people from Tabqa and Raqqa. Operation happening, they all moved there. Some walk, some by the trucks and everything. So when I get there, there was a woman who actually came to me and said, "Can you come to our tent?" And I just followed them, and she was crying. So she showed me two of her children who were lying down on the floor, and she looked at me and said, "Can you take their photos and just go there and find some doctor or someone to help us, because we can't leave the camp." And that was the most difficult moment, that you understand that, okay, now you're here for a reason. I mean, you have a duty. I couldn't say much, so I tried to take some photos of the children, and even to me, that was something new. I never saw children in that kind of a state of life in Syria. And I find out that this disease, which called marasmus, is quite common in Africa and in India because of the malnutrition, and the children get it under the age of 1. It can be prevented and it can be cured, but not in the situation of the refugees and the people who their mother cannot be actually eat well. So she had 4 children, I believe, and 2 of them were suffering from this. So I had the photo, and then when I finished, she tried to tell me the stories. And I looked back, I saw maybe 5 or 6 other parents just holding their children and asking me to take photos and take it to the doctors. And she said, "Oh, you're coming from Europe, just show the problem." And then I realized, okay, this is what I need to do. So I left the camp and I came back to Kobani just trying to find the help. I went to the Doctors Without Borders and I couldn't find the right contact, so I showed it to someone and they said, "Oh, but we didn't know they exist in the camp." So we tried to go and find out. Then for 3 or 4 days I was not around, so then I find some people again and I asked, "What's going on?" They said they couldn't find the family. So I said, okay, I have to go back. On that day, I was doing a small report on the hospital in Kobani, and then I saw one of the other mothers who had her children with the same disease, but she was lucky she could get to the hospital. And she was so happy and smiling and showing me her son and saying, "You see, he looks much better now." To me, he didn't look any different. But then I could see the hope in the mother's eyes and the fact that she thinks, okay, he's in the hospital, so he would be fine. And then I asked about the other 2 children, and she said they both passed away. One on Monday and the other one on Friday, just a few days back. So I just found the car and we ran to the camp. Maybe by 3 or 4 hours I was inside the camp, and I tried to find the mother. I didn't know what to say, to apologize that I was late. I saw her and she came to me. She came and said, "Do you have the photos of my children? Because I don't have any picture from them and they passed away." And that was the only photo I have. So I show her. And then she started crying again. And I thought, okay, this mother is going to have a long term, trying to come with the terms that she lost 2 babies just like that. Not in bombardment or nothing, not in actual war, but in the camp. And then she said, "Since they died, my husband is not talking anymore and he has fever. Can you help him?" And I was like, "But you just lost your children and now you have to kind of bring yourself out of this suffering by another one." So it's ongoing things going on with their lives. And that's just kind of, it was a moment that I felt I can do something. At the same time, I felt so powerless, I would say. I met so many children that actually born into this war, which is going on for almost 6 years now. And they haven't seen anything out of war. They don't know what's peace. They know it's hard, but then to their mind, that's life. And for me, that is really harsh and cruel, because this shouldn't be the way they actually experience life. So I've been following different children in different situations, both in happy times and difficult times, because at the same time I would find children really capable to adjust and adapt to any situation, even in the camps or in Kobani when there was 80% of the city was ruined. I could see them playing, and I was like, I'm so sad and depressed, but then it's good to see the hope goes on with their lives. But then I was thinking in psychological and the trauma they would go to, maybe we won't see it now or we don't feel it now, but in long term it would appear. You know, it's really difficult with all that we're saying to find a moment or a photograph that it shows all the consequences of war. And that's why with this, for example, this project of children of war, I'm trying to show it in perhaps in a portrait, in the condition that they're living in. And at some time, maybe you won't actually feel it, but then if you really think about the situation, you may see a child playing, but then if you look deeper and see the surrounding, you would say, okay, if the war can actually do this much damage to concrete walls, what can it do to a soul and a human soul and the children? So I think it depends how people look at it. I do my best to just take a shot of what I feel is important. But then I can't actually run out of everyone and said, but just don't pass it through over your morning coffee and just say, okay, another child. But just put yourself in that situation that you are living in a place that you have nothing with. And you have all the right to feel forgotten. But at the same time, there is some hope. For whoever wants to do what I'm trying to do is to find out why you're doing this. I mean, deep down, do you like, in a way, to just go to the war and what is important for you and you want to show that, okay, I'm able to do this? Is it important for you to go there, come back with a story and sell, have exhibitions, have people actually known you for war photographer? Or you want to help those people? I mean, unless you don't really kind of connect with the people, whoever they are. I mean, if they're refugees in Calais or people in Paris who are suffering, unless there's not a connection, nothing can come out of it. I mean, you may take amazing photos, which is really nice, but then it's not going to add any brick to the wall that we're trying to make against all the injustice.